Hi everybody, it's Mr. Stewart here with an assignment video for the Curious Character Part 2 assignment. Now what I'm doing here is a little bit different than what I've done before because I'm going to kind of walk through these a couple of different ways and show you kind of how I approach this, but I've done this in screen grabbed and I'm just kind of sped up the film. I'm not actually drawing this fast. And I'm just talking over it to give you an idea. So first off, what I'm going through and doing is just making any adjustments. That arm looked a little short to me as I had done it. And so I thought, well, I'll go in and make some adjustments before I start finishing this out. And this is always a good time to do that, to make any adjustments while it's still in the pose test. Now, the first way I'm going to approach this is the traditional way of just in-betweening down and making more and more drawings. I'm going to talk a little bit more about these kinds of theories and less about filling in exposures. And the process of doing this I've done, just kind of the menu stuff I've done a lot in the previous assignment videos. So you should be pretty familiar with how to add in a new drawing or fill the exposure or different things like that. So what I'm doing now is I'm checking the video reference. You can see that will pop on occasionally. And then checking kind of a frame number to do what we call breakdowns. So I want to create a sequence of images that's going to move smoothly. And in order to do that, I want to make sure that they are kind of spread apart, almost like a slinky, where they're slowly, the space between the images is slowly getting bigger or smaller depending upon if it's speeding up or slowing down. Now, you can start to see that forming with all of these images. And so I'm being very aware of the space between all of these images. What I'm not being super aware of is how clean the drawing is. I'm working in a rough line. I'm worried about the placement of the line and where the lines go in order to create that pattern of images. But if the line is all shaky and rattly, I'm not worried about that. In fact, I kind of embrace that in the old school way of this is rough animation. I'm not trying to make it clean. What I'm trying to do is really concentrate more on the pattern of images, the placement of all the lines, the volume of my shapes, the head, the body, making sure that those are similar volumes. Now, in terms of, students ask me all the time what kind of animation I like best. Do I like computer animation? Do I like hand-drawn animation? This is kind of I like all forms of animation, but right now I am really enjoying doing old school hand-drawn animation like this, probably more than anything else. I like all the tools. I like all the technology. I'm not against those, but I do think there is nothing more pure and nothing more, in some cases, difficult than doing it just like this, filling in all the drawings, being your own in-betweener, really working out all the sequences, all the slow in, the slow out. These are principles that we talk about in class. And I enjoy being able to work all of those different things out and draw all of the drawings. Really a drawing on sometimes every frame, certainly on every other frame. Now, it gets a little tricky. You can see the more drawings you do, it becomes a little bit of a soupy mess sometimes. So you have to really be aware of what you're drawing and how you're drawing this. Now, as I get close to the final drawing of pushing into the screen, when he comes into the screen, looking in the screen, I also want to be aware of how he's going to exit that pose. So as he comes to a stop in that final position, I want to be aware of what the pattern of drawings is going to be to get him out of that position and move into the next pose. And so in that sense, I'm always sort of looking at the entire thing, all of the different drawings as I said, as a pattern, very much like a slinky. That is all of these drawings are connected and work together. So, and there is sometimes a sense of, I really enjoy it's almost like a jigsaw puzzle. There's a lot of pieces to making an animation. All of these different drawings, what we call in-betweens, what we call breakdowns, and each drawing kind of fits into its place the way each jigsaw puzzle piece fits into its place. And so, as I said, as I'm starting to work into the next movement, we've talked a little bit about slow in and slow out in class. The idea of slow in and slow out is that when we move, it takes energy to speed us up, and once we speed our movements up, then it also takes energy to slow us down. So in order to make something look like it is moving slower, then we're going to have a lot of drawings close together. In fact, they're going to look like they are completely on top of each other, like this. And I know for me, when I first started, this felt a little odd that I would draw the same drawing over and over again on top of each other. Now it just feels very normal. But if I want something to move fast, I'm going to spread the drawings apart a little bit more. So, and as I've said over a couple of times, the idea of the slinky is if you pull the slinky apart, then all of the drawings sort of spread apart, but the ones in the middle spread apart the most, and the ones on the edge are closer together. The coils on the edge are closer together. That sort of slow in and slow out is, as my pose comes to a stop, those drawings are going to get closer together. In the in-between drawings that are moving in the middle between one pose and another, those drawings are going to be spaced further apart from each other. And so there are going to be some sections where you're drawing kind of right on top of each other like this, and then there are going to be some sections where you're going to be drawing something that is further apart and very quick. But the other thing that was interesting to me was that I ended up doing a lot more of the drawings on top of each other because those were slower. So when I wanted the character to remain more still, then that meant more drawings because I needed more time, and it also meant that the character was going to stay in that position for longer, and that meant more time, more drawings, and more in the same spot. So if that feels a little unusual to you, then don't worry about that. You're doing it correctly. But here you can see I'm doing something that's moving a little faster. It's in the middle. There's a little more space between the movements. and but as it comes closer to the final pose, it starts to get closer together to these final positions that I was doing before. And I kind of work out of order of I don't do one drawing necessarily and then the next and then the next and the next and the next. I sort of think about it as that entire image sequence, that how it's all going to work together. So because I can sort of imagine that it's going to be close together in some places and further apart in others, I will do them necessarily in a different order and kind of work on the whole pattern. Just again, like I would work on a jigsaw puzzle, I wouldn't do the piece in the left-hand corner and then just go in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and find those pieces. I would work. I would work, and the whole piece puzzle would come together as a whole in different sections, because I would be looking at the whole idea of the puzzle, not just one piece after another. And that's kind of how I look at this in animation as well. So you can see I'm getting closer here to this first part. I'm only going to really in between the very first part and the movement that you see here. I would keep this rough and turn it in this rough. Now it's moving very fast because it's sped up, but I actually felt like I wanted the movements to happen a little faster, where he came in a little quicker. So I'm moving these drawings closer together. So instead of working on twos, I'm deleting the second frame and I'm moving those frames closer together so he will enter in more quickly. Okay, so now I have slowed the footage down. So this is the actual animation real speed, at least the beginning where it comes in. You can see I'm using some squash and stretch and sort of pushing and pulling and getting a nice smooth movement in the animation. And now I'm going to take another approach and use the sort of the character rig approach. Now, in the same way, I'm going to start with the reference here and kind of just examine the reference, examine all the frames, examine the movement of what I want to do. I don't want to necessarily be tied completely to that video reference, but I want to examine it, I want to observe it, and see if there is something I can use from it. And then I'm putting a transparency on my rough animation, and then I've created some other layers here, and I'm going to make the different pieces. In this case, I'm going to keep it simple and just make a head layer and a body layer. Now, I use the pencil tool so that I can go in and refine and reshape some of the shapes, and kind of use the white arrow, the individual select arrow. And I'm going through and just kind of cleaning up and adding in a skin tone and maybe making some wrinkles, get the eye looking a little bit better. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but to give myself a basic head, and I want to go in and expand that exposure over the entire time that the character is going to be coming into frame like this, because this set of drawings that I'm going to animate is going to work for this particular movement where the character is pushing in, and as the character turns his head towards camera, I would redraw some new drawings and animate those drawings using a peg. And so that, trying to use a combination of both, giving myself the advantage of creating a peg and a rig, and the advantage of also being able to draw new positions for the head. Now I've gone in, I've created a new color and gone in, and this is not filling in with the bucket because I didn't close off the line, so I went in and closed off the line there, and so it wouldn't fill the entire screen with this red. And now I'm going to go in and kind of explore creating some extra details. I want to put some shadow on there. Now I keep drawing with the paint bucket. This is what I'm doing now, and going, why isn't it working? And so then I went up and grabbed the pencil, and then put in some deep black. I experimented with the paintbrush there as well, and just put these black shapes. Then I'm going to add the effect layer of a shadow, and it'll just kind of give a nice little transparency there. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the head layer here. Add another drawing layer, call it a shadow. Draw out the black. Now I liked the paintbrush when I was drawing the shadows, and I liked using the eraser. I could draw these shapes in, and I could really kind of sculpt them using the eraser a little bit, to me, a little bit easier than using the pencil and filling those in. And you can sort of see I get a little, with the pencil you get a little bit of an outline to the shadow, which looks fine. With the paintbrush you get more of a clean shape there. So I went in, put the shadow effect on that. And then I thought, well, I'll play with putting in a little bit of highlight on his head there, a little shine. Since I didn't go in and draw hair. And I tried with the glow. I rendered it out. I could have experimented this a little bit more, but I thought I'll just do a transparency on that, kind of work through some of the different effects, but that transparency seemed to work out, give it a nice little subtle extra piece. And I was working around with blurs. Now what I'm doing here, when you see this sort of blank screen, is I'm rendering. The play button with the star right next to the play button is a way to render out your frames and see what all the effects and all of those different things how they will look. So once I've put all these together, I created another drawing layer that was an empty drawing layer that I called head top, and I called body top, and I put it underneath. I put all the pieces for the head underneath that. And then on that head top, I created a peg. And that peg is what I'm going to animate on. I did the same thing for the body. And I started first with the head, kind of placing it back. And the nice thing about this, one of the nice things, you can move that pivot point, you can play around. But if you don't like how things are working, you can delete those keys and move them around again. And I did this a little bit. I grabbed both of them, and I was able to kind of put a couple of different pivots in different places and create some quick scale and some quick rotation, and then create the animation. Now at this point, I really didn't care so much about my drawings as I wanted to get a quick movement. So I would go in and I would create a key really close to the end, and then I would just move those keys over in the timeline so that it would give me this sort of quick movement coming out of the initial keys, and then the slow movement to slow in with those keys at the end. All right, so I'm getting close, and I want to kind of look at it. I keep pushing those keys over to make the action faster. Now I've slowed this down again to real time, and I want to now take a look at what the animation would look like. So I'm going to render these frames out with, I'm going to hide the drawing, the original rough animation layer, so that I can just see the new animation. And I'm going to go in and let all those frames load up, but then just kind of enter in, I think it was like frame 103 here, so that I could just see this section where the character comes in. And here's the animation, kind of what it looks like coming in. Now, this is stiffer, but has more, obviously, a much more finished look. The original sort of approach is more fluid, but has a very unfinished approach. There's not a right way or a wrong way, but there are different ways that appeal to different people, and that's kind of why I'm trying to put both of them in here. So you can use all of these techniques to finish up your animation and finish out the whole thing for part 2, and then turn in that video. So good luck and have a great week.